Hi, welcome along again to the Grade Academy with Philip Campion for Introduction to the Comparative. This is a short general introduction. Based on what the marking scheme says, you are expected in this section in the exam to discuss similarities and differences in your text. And you're expected to illustrate the ideas you're comparing from your text. That's what key moment is all about, the illustration. And you need to know how to organize a successful answer. How many sections? So you need to be purposeful. You need to be able to sustain your discussion of similarities and differences across a number of sections, all of which I'll show you through this series of lectures. So this is the essential approach to the comparative. Get this into your head first. What is the comparative task? Well, the examiner rewards you for comparing and contrasting within the mode, showing your understanding of the mode, your focus on fulfilling the key words of the question. And you see the highlighted words there. Comparing, contrasting, understanding mode, focus. Respond to this section of the exam, prepared to be involved in description plus analysis of the text in the light of the modes for comparison. So you have to go into a key moment, a scene, a little happening, or something that's stretched across a few chapters or a few areas of a text that becomes for you a key moment in a mode. So you have to describe it briefly, particularly in the first text that you're launching your response from. Maybe to a lesser extent in the second text that you're spotlighting from the first text, etc. Then you have to analyze that key moment that you've described or partially narrated in the light of the modes. Just think about that. When you look at this again later in revision, having viewed the other lectures in this comparative section, you will more sharply understand what this slide and the other ones in this short presentation are telling you. Your response has to be led by the ideas referred to in the question, then illustrating from a text at a time, with links back from the second text to the first. You can't really link when you're in the first text. It's not a good idea to try because it gets very complicated. Establish or root your point in your first text, your favorite text. We could call it the anchor text. More of that later. And then move to the second text where you reflect back a bit to the first text. You get me? So I'll read all that again because it takes a bit of repetition for you to get it. Your response has to be led by the ideas referred to in the question. Then illustrating from a text at a time with links back from the second text to the first, and in 2021, if you decide to use a third one, the third back to either or both. Now, technically speaking, you can manage the comparative in 2021 with two texts only. And if that is going to be your strategy throughout, well, then you will be perfectly placed to answer well in the exam. But if you have work done on a third text and you want to draw upon it, or because it's particularly suitable or appealing to you, even if you use it and other people in your class don't, well, that's fine too, because you've got to build your strengths and play to them. You will be marked on how good a job you do with comparing under the terms of the question, not in terms of showing off volumes or quantities of text. That's not really the issue. So it's not how big a sack can you carry on your back, but it's how deftly can you slip into the room with just what's required on a little tray for the actual task. You get me? It's like this. The orange one is like text one. It's kind of like the anchor text, the launch pad for each point. It's better to use one text for that. You don't have to. There is no regulation about this. But it's better because it gives you a consistent way of managing and organizing the stages of your answer. So begin, I would say, so with many teachers, in text one. Then when you go into text two, write about the corresponding moment or whatever it is in text two. In the light of what you've said about text one, try comparing back quite a few times. I will tell you more about that later, how to do it. And if you visit a third text at any point of your composition, even once, let alone all the time, then it's a value insofar as you link it back either to text 2 or to text 1, or both. The modes 2021. Theme and issue, general vision and viewpoint, and cultural context. Do you have a clue what they are? Do you know how to separate them in your mind? If you don't worry. I'm here to let the mud settle, the dust settle, the water's clear, and for you to see it. That will happen. So how to prepare for the exam again? Specialize in 2 modes, not one. It's too limiting because the question in the exam, by the way, might be worded in a way that suits your mode, the one you like to play in. And you need to broaden your ability at the comparative by being able to reflect in at least 2 modes for yourself. So, okay, if you want to pick your favorite later in the year to shorten your study for the exam, well, of course, you can follow that strategy, and best of luck to you. You'll probably be successful. But to guarantee it, it's better to have 2 modes than to have that choice to pick from in the exam, as I said. And yet, even though it's trimmed back a bit for 2021, it's always the advice: understand the 3rd mode, because there can be a possibility of straying into the 3rd mode accidentally if you don't know what it is. And therefore, you would be kicking yourself. Besides which, what you learn in the 3rd mode illuminates you further as a reader. You don't have to pay that much attention to it. No big heavy lifting in the 3rd mode for 2021 for sure. But knowing it is worth doing. It doesn't take too much just to know it, basically. It takes very little. In fact, these lectures will have you clear about it. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be back with a series of lectures on the comparative. Over and out for now from the Grade Academy.